Our story today comes to you from a book called Sophie's Squash. Sarah has graciously agreed to be Sophie. Karen Rose is going to be her mom, and Tom is her dad. One bright fall, he's not that old. One bright fall day, Sophie chose a squash at the farmer's market. Her parents planned to serve it for supper, but Sophie had other ideas. It was just the right size to hold in her arms, just the right size to bounce on her knee, just the right size to love.
I'm so glad we met. It's hard to find good friends these days.
At home, Sophie used markers to give her squash a face. Then she wrapped it in a blanket and rocked it to sleep. When it was time to make supper, Sophie's mother looked at the squash. Then she looked at Sophie.
I'll call her Bernice.
After that, Bernice went everywhere with Sophie, to story time at the library, to visit other squash at the farmer's market, to practice somersaults in the garden. Every night, Sophie gave Bernice a bottle, a hug, and a kiss.
Well, we did hope she'd love vegetables.
Bernice is sleeping.
Sophie's mother said one morning as they made blueberry waffles.
Bernice is a squash, not a friend. If we don't eat her soon, she'll get all mushy and gross. Let's bake her with marshmallows. Won't that taste yummy?
Don't listen, Bernice.
That afternoon, Sophie's father took her shopping.
Sugar beet, Bernice is a squash. Why don't you pick a nice toy to play with instead?
But the trucks were too hard, and the dolls were too soft. Sophie clutched Bernice tightly.
No thanks. I have everything I need.
After supper, Sophie's parents called a family meeting. Bernice napped in Sophie's lap.
Why don't we donate Bernice to a food pantry before she rots?
Bernice will last forever.
The next day, on the way to the library, Sophie's dad said,
Bernice seems a little blotchy.
She looks perfect to me.
At story time, some kids pointed and stared. What is that spotty thing? A boy asked.
Her name is Bernice, and she's a squash with freckles.
Maybe Bernice should stay home next time.
Why? She wasn't the one who was being rude.
Still, as winter neared, Sophie noticed some changes. Bernice seemed softer, and her somersaults lacked their usual style.
Visiting friends will cheer you up.
At the farmer's market, squash were everywhere. Firm, shiny squash.
Mr. Farmer, how do you keep squash healthy?
It's simple, really. Fresh air, good clean dirt, a little love.
I have all of that.
At home, Sophie cleared leaves from Bernice's favorite spot. She made a bed of soft soil, tucked Bernice in, and kissed her goodnight.
Get better soon.
And that night, while the wind whistled and the tiny snowflakes fell, Sophie and her dad sang soft lullabies to Bernice.
Good night, bonne nuit, oh Yasumi Nisai, buenas noches, la salama, one an, spokojnie noci, gute Nacht, Lila to. Good night, bonne nuit, oh Yasumi Nisai, buenas noches, la salama, one an, spokojnie noci, gute Nacht, Lila to. Wherever you rest your head tonight, we are all one family. Let's hold tight and fill the world with dreams of harmony tonight. Wherever you rest your head tonight, we are all one family. Let's hold tight and fill the world with dreams of harmony tonight. No matter what words we used to say good night, but we Oyasumi nasai, buenas noches, la salama, one night, spokojnie noci, gute nacht, la to. Good night, but we Oyasumi nasai, buenas noches, la salama, one night, spokojnie noci, gute nacht, la to. No matter what words we used to say, good night. Good night. Good night. Good night.
When Sophie awoke, the world was covered in white.
Do you think she's cold out there?
Oh, I'm sure she's warm and cozy under her snowy blanket.
Sophie gazed out the window all morning. She was still there in the afternoon when her father came home with a surprise.
You need a new friend. Meet Ace.
Ace was nice, but boring. He just swam around and around in his bowl. But during the long winter, Sophie discovered that Ace was a superb silent reader who did fabulous flip turns. And he always listened politely when she talked about Bernice. When the snow finally melted, Sophie rushed to the garden. The only thing there was a small green sprout. It looked strangely familiar.
Bernice, how was your winter?
After that, Sophie, Ace, and Bernice ate lunch together every day. One bright summer morning, Sophie somersaulted across her yard, landed by the garden, and stared in disbelief. Bernice had grown 2 tiny squash.
Wow, you look just like your mom.
Soon, Bonnie and Baxter were just the right size for Sophie to hold in her arms and bounce on her knee. Just the right size to love.